Hello, wonderful people. So I recently got a 5.1 or a 4.1 Mac Pro that I was going to use for some video editing, but the way I got it was pretty slow. So as a man of the scientific method through college, I decided, since I'm spending the money, I might as well just write down and Geekbench it everywhere along the time that I upgraded, just to see what the scores are and to see if it's a good idea to upgrade some of the components I did, or if it's a complete waste of time. Starting out, I had my Mac Pro configured from the guy I bought it from with a 512 megabyte NVIDIA GT120. That's Mac compatible, 10 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, a Seagate Barracuda, I believe, and it's a dual CPU. Both of them are the 2 by 2.26 gigahertz processors. So starting out, I had a single core score of 5059 and a multi-score of 12829, and I tested them 3 times, and this is the averages. So next, I upgraded the RAM to 48 gigabytes. My single core score was 2173 and a multi-score of 12663. That's an improvement of 106% in the single core and a 99%. No, hold on. So 1% decrease for the multi-score. And I tested that 3 times. It's probably a Geekbench thing. I noticed that it's way quicker with 48 gigs than 10, obviously. So it's probably just a numbers game. My third modification was 96 gigs of RAM. My single core score was 2069 with a multi-score of 13,260. Which means that my multi-score went down to 95%, so it went down 5%, but that's from the single. So the way I crunched the numbers, which is my way of doing it, I took that from the number above. So when it went to 106%, now it's down 95. We're still above 1. 106 minus 95, we're plus 1. But then the multi-score went up 5, so from 99 to 105, that's a 6% increase. And I'll link the graphs right next to it, or show the graphs or the numbers or something, so someone can see what I'm actually doing. And then my final upgrade was the 2 CPUs. W5590, 3.33 gigahertz. Not the 6-core, they're the 4-core each, because I don't even need 6 cores, and it wasn't worth the investment for what I got these for. So my single core is 2798 with a multi-score of 17,859, which is a 135% increase for both single and multi-core scores. The single core from stock to 96 gigabytes and 3.33, the single core score went up 729 points, and the multi-score went up 4,599. So that's where I'm at. When I put in my graphics card, the numbers did not change as I hoped they would. I averaged them out, and with the graphics card, the numbers were roughly around the same. So that just tells me that the graphics card, just for the single core score, has no influence on the numbers, which is good. So moving on to graphics card performance, I put in a AMD Radeon 570 or RX 570 with 4 gigabytes of RAM with DDR5 memory, with the 2 by 2.26 gigahertz. My OpenCL score was 120,778 average, and the Metal score was 123,935. With the 3.33 gigahertz processors, my score went up to 121,994 with the metal score of 125,836, which is an increase of 101 or 1% for OpenCL and 2% for metal scores. So they're minimal at best. Nothing that I was too surprised at, but at least they went up. Better than going down, that's for sure. And no benchmark is complete without giving Cinebench R20 a chance to see what it's at. I used R20 instead of R15 because I didn't want the graphics to influence what the scores are, and I just wanted to test CPUs. And starting with the 2.26 gigahertz with let's see, the 96 gigs of RAM and 512 megabytes of memory, the CPU scored 1577 with a single score of 159, which is pretty pathetic. With the two CPUs that are 3.33 gigahertz, I got a CPU score of 2225 and a single score of 223, which is still not that good, but the increase in performance from the 2.26 to the 3.33 for the combined CPU score went up 41%, with the single score going up 40%, which is pretty significant if you ask me, because that's almost double the performance for the CPU according to the benchmark. So now you might be asking, well, where does the graphics card end up performance-wise? Besides the OpenGL and the metal scores, which are just scores, I ran Unigine Heaven 4 with the GT120, which is a 512 megabytes graphics card. The quality was high, tessellation was normal. I got a score of 193. And just for comparison, my MacBook Pro 2012 with the dual graphics, 16 gigs of RAM, 2.26 gigahertz processor on the same settings, and the screen size was 1366 by 780 or 768. That scored a 572. So this graphics card is dated on the NVIDIA 120, but it can show you the Mac bootloader, which you might want. When I put in the RX 570 on quality high, tessellation normal, my score was 1799, which is, I didn't do the math, but it's 3-4 times higher? No, around 3 times higher, which is really significant. I mean, that's the best upgrade you can do for the graphics card. I ran the test again with ultra quality and extreme tessellation with 8 times whatever the word is, I'm lost for words. The score was 1271, so that's really impressive. With maxed out scores 1271, you can benchmark it against your system, see where mine's at and see where yours at, and leave it in the comments just so someone can get a view of, like, I'm curious to see what a RX 580 with the 8 gigs of RAM was, which is what I originally wanted to buy, but you know, money's tight. So this one's fantastic for editing and what I do with it. So now you might be thinking, oh cool, you know, the numbers went up, some of the stuff's significant, some of the stuff isn't, but how much did it cost? You know, money talks. You can get a Hackintosh for pretty cheap nowadays, and is it worth investing into a machine like this just for a few percent increases, like a 140% increase for CPU, 102% increase with the change in processor, 135% increase with 96 gigs of RAM and all that? Well, I don't know your financial situation, but mine, it was much better than roasting another MacBook Pro from editing 4K videos that I post on this channel. So here's how much I spent in total. So everything, including the MacBook Pro, is $849. That's the complete total. All my upgrades that I did cost me $423.51. So, and you can configure it however you want. Like, you don't need this 4 gig graphics if that's not what you're doing. Or so, two potential downgrades of what I did is, yes, it's only an 8 core. I mean, 8 core is good enough. When I was running Final Cut Pro exporting a video, I was only using 4 cores. Don't know why, don't ask me. Only 4 cores out of the 8 were being used, which is pretty dumb, but if you have a 12 core, I don't actually know of that many programs that are written to use all the 12 cores. It's mostly like 4 or 6 cores that get used depending on some of the things you use. I know Logic can use all the cores you have, but besides that, I'm not too familiar with any. So the memory that I bought, 96 gigabytes, was it's only 1066 millihertz DDR3. It's ECC registered. But you know, if you feel like spending an extra $100, you can get 1300 millihertz or megahertz, excuse me, RAM. So you'll see a faster data bus speed. I wasn't about to drop another $100 to get the same memory when I got 16 gigs, and even when I'm editing a video, I got 50 some gigs left over. So if you're not using too intensive applications, you might be able to use just 48 just fine. Make sure you use either slots 1 through 3 or 5 and 6, because you're going to get your triple channel memory, versus if you use any other slots than that configuration, you're only going to use double channel if they're the same. If you can't use different RAM sticks because the computer will not. So I actually tested my computer out yesterday, not like Geekbench or any other benchmarks. I just put in a video and I could seek through the video. I could edit effects, I could put in transitions, and I won't have to wait for it to buffer like on my MacBook Pro. It's all smooth in real time. Even some of the really graphic intensive ones work just fine. I exported the video, and to my surprise I only used 4 cores, but then the processor temp didn't go over 150. The graphics card was pretty cool. The RPMs were really low for the fans. I barely even heard the computer running, and it exported in 4K pretty quick within a few minutes, and the video wasn't even all that long. My MacBook would like slow down when going through the transitions. If I hit play on the clips, it would freeze up when I put in the transitions. Exporting it would take some time, especially the longer videos with the music and the transitions. Like if you look at some of my other videos, you'll know the one I'm talking about, or the ones. But the thing would heat up so hot where you couldn't even put it in your lap, or you take it off the desk and the desk is really hot, like 200 degrees for the CPU, and the graphics card was like 150, 160. So I burnt out 2 MacBook Pros from 2011, and I had them both reflowed, but still the issue plagued it. So I bought this thing just to replace that, so I don't burn out this one, because they're getting rare, and I'd hate to burn that one out and can't find a Logic board, or Logic boards are $600 like they are now. I'll see you guys in the next one, and enjoy some of the videos I edited from this. Let's be honest, there is a 0% chance I thought that would work. I thought I was gonna snap the thing and clean into 2, but what do you know? It works. You can't be serious. I mean, it's a little scraped up here, but that'll get cleaned off by some razor blades. Huh. What do you know? This one came out too. It didn't fly out. Looks pretty clean, no damage. These heat shields are strong though. And this will add to the collection. Now let's get back into it.